All right, welcome back. Just breezing through this second hour here of a Thirsty Thursday edition of Liquid Lunch. Early on in the whole coronavirus scare, I was talking about the fear, fright, and hysteria. It turned out to be a little worse than even I thought. And unfortunately, we lost, somewhere over 100,000 people to the COVID. And now, we have all the different hospitals and stuff. They have all the incentive in the world to call almost every death a COVID death. But I was drinking Corona beer, and I was wiping my face every day with the Corona wipes, the Lysol wipes. And, knock on wood, it kept me Corona-free, so I'm still on the Corona beer. And sometimes in all this craziness that's going on, you need a drink and to just handle some of this stuff. But my next guest here, he's barely old enough to drink, but he is legal. And he joins us right now from New York. Gavin Wax joins us. He's the president of the New York Young Republican Club. He's a political commentator. He's a columnist on Town Hall and also on Newxmax. And you may have seen this viral video when they were trying to take down the Teddy Roosevelt statue. It was Gavin and the Young Republicans. By the way, the oldest Young Republican club in the country, over 100 years old, firmly, conservative, pro-Trump group. Gavin, that was a great thing that you did. There's not a lot of patriots. Everybody talks about it, but there's not a lot of people that want to roll up their sleeves and get their hands dirty. You did an amazing job, and now you got some momentum behind you. Tell us what the feeling is right now within the group about all the great things you're doing.
Well, John, thanks for having me on. And there's a lot of great feelings going around. We feel like we really, accomplished a big thing there a few weeks ago. We got national press. It went viral, like you said, and it sort of showed that there's a massive silent majority out there that really hates what's going on with our country, and they want to see some pushback. They want to see some change. So our club, we're in the belly of the beast here in New York. I mean, you're a New Yorker, you know how it is here. So we're hoping that we can, start pushing back bit by bit. We want to take part in a lot of Back the Blue rallies. We want to defend other statues. I'm sure they're going to come after Columbus next, Jefferson, whoever it is. So our club is going to be here as an organizing force to gather people of all ages and all backgrounds. They don't have to just be young Republicans. We had a big motley crew, a real New York crew that came out for our rally. So we're hoping to do more. We're hoping to make a stand and let our voices be heard and really draw attention to what these people are doing, what this left-wing Marxist mob is trying to do to our country and our city.
So, yeah, many people don't realize, I'm glad you said the left-wing Marxist mob, because that's what it is. Many people don't realize that Black Lives Matter sounds like a really sane statement. Of course Black Lives Matter, right? But the movement that has hijacked that phrase is really a front for a bunch of Marxists who want to destroy America as we know it, and almost all of the founding principles of our nation, faith, freedom, family, liberty, individualism. They want all that stuff gone, and people don't really realize that. But you did say maybe Columbus is next. Columbus is already being beheaded. Yep. Columbus, right? Okay. I say this all the time. The guy found the place. There would be no America. You wouldn't have the opportunity to express your Marxist views if he didn't get in the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria and come over here and find the place by accident. So what the hell did Christopher Columbus do to get this kind of wrath, other than represent a country that has had probably one of the greatest generations of hard-working people? Italians came to America legally. They went through Ellis Island. They weren't allowed to get jobs in New York, and people worked, and they worked and they built up. And a lot of Italians, they probably want to shoot somebody, but they don't go out and protest. It's just not what they do. So is that just an easy target, Columbus?
I mean, look, we had the South Philly Italians. They rallied. They defended their statue. It looked like it was that scene out of The Sopranos. I'm half Italian, and these statues were built, in the early 1900s when, Italian immigrants were pouring into the country, and they were made, many of them by Italian, stonemasons and artisans, to welcome Italians into the U.S., to have them be part of our national history, of our national traditions, and bring them into the melting pot. And it was a great thing. But now, they're attacking him because he lived a few hundred years ago, and the moral standards in 1492 were a little different than 2020. Okay, big deal. That's history. But that's what this all is. It's about erasing history, erasing the past. They're going after groups. They're going after statues. It's all part of this cultural revisionism that they're engaging in. And you said it earlier, even you said it great. It's all about marketing. They love to market this revolution, under all these great sounding phrases like Black Lives Matter. So you can't argue against it. They want to frame the argument. So, you have to be the guy who has to argue against that, which, is in a bad position. You're already losing the argument if you have to argue against Black Lives Matter. So
right.
they're very sneaky. They're sneaky with how they do this.
No, listen, they're clever. You know what I mean? Yep. They're clever. It's actually a very old school psychological trick to do that, because they put you in a no-win situation, right? If you say you're with them, then all of a sudden, sneakily, you're with a Marxist organization. If you say you're against Black Lives Matter, then they use the words. And then they say, hey, you're against black people. You're a racist. No. So I kind of separate the two by saying, if I say a sentence to you, Black Lives Matter, you say, hell yeah. And any sane person will say, of course they do, right? But when you put the hashtag in front of it and put it in all caps, it becomes a truism that I don't agree with. And I ain't going to say hashtag Black Lives Matter, because they're Marxists. Yeah. What are you doing with these young folks? What are you young guys doing, young guys and girls, and whatever anyone identifies as these days? What are you doing to spread the word and bring, awareness that this is a Marxist organization?
I mean, look, we're here in New York, and we may be a very blue city and a blue state, but there's tons of Republicans, young and old, across the city, and they need a place. They need a focal point where they can meet other young Republicans, where they can meet people of the same mindset. They can talk, they become friends, and they can know that they're not alone. And when you have that strength in numbers, you really could start standing up and pushing back. They like to keep us, isolated, like to make us think that we're, in the fringe, that we're in the minority, but that's just not the truth. I mean, when they came out with the abolish the police stuff, it was 60% of New Yorkers were against it. So there's a lot of people who feel and think the way we do, and having a club like my club, the New York Young Republican Club, in order to organize all these different disparate people and bring them together so we can engage in rallies, then the sky's the limit. When we had the rally, Antifa didn't show up and BLM didn't show up until after we left. And then they went after the stragglers. So they knew we had the numbers, and they purposely waited. So that's their tactics. They like to get you when they have the numbers. They like to get you on your back foot, and you have to defend, everything as if you are a racist. It's ridiculous. It's sneaky. It's shady. But we're seeing a lot of positive things across the country. A lot of different youth groups, from Students for Trump, which is massive, TPUSA, the college Republicans, the young Republicans, Young Americans for Freedom. I mean, the youth of the party, we have a lot of different organizations. They just don't have that on the left. So if we keep building this, we can really, lead to something great, especially with Gen Z, and they're moving, pretty right wing, according to the latest polls.
Yeah, I have another. I like to get, I have old people, I have young people, I have right wingers, I have left wingers. I kind of run the gamut, you know what I mean? And we have a lot of common friends who, share, a thirst and love for the freedoms and liberties that are, the great fighting forces of our country have delivered for us and protected for us. But I have Pavlina Oster. She's a friend of the show. She's a Gen Zer. And she has been telling me for like the last year that a lot of the young people are not snowflakes. They're actually seeing through this stuff and going more and more conservative when they kind of break it down. Do you think we're seeing a little renaissance with this next generation of coming back to the party that actually voted to end slavery, that voted to give African American and minorities voting rights, the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment? They were all voted 100% yes Republican, 100% no Democrat. How come that history isn't erased?
Oh, look, I love Pavlina. She's great. I've done a few shows with her, and she's absolutely right. I mean, things are moving in the right direction. I mean, especially with the Gen Zs. They grew up in the internet age. They grew up digital. They've always had access to all this information that you just talked about at their fingertips. So they're not watching, CNN. They're not watching the mainstream. They're on the internet. They're finding their information on their own, and they're getting wise to it. And it's like it is throughout history. I mean, the young people don't want to be told what to do. So if the orthodoxy in the schools and in the media is to be left wing, then they're going to want to do the opposite of that. They're going to want to say, no, I'm on the right, I'm a conservative, because that's like, that's the counterculture. So we're seeing that. It's not the 1960s anymore. It's not like what they think it is. I mean, all the people that are running these schools are like these aging hippies from the 60s, and the people that they're trying to indoctrinate are young kids who are sick of it. So
Right.
I think there's going to be a pushback, and I think it's going in the right direction.
That's good. You know, sometimes like when my nieces and nephews, DJ, Ella, and Todd, my little niece and nephews, you know, you try to get them to eat some food, and they're like, no, no, no. And then I'll say, you know what? Give me that hot dog. That's my hot dog. You can't have it now. And then they come running for the hot dog. So it's like the same type of mentality you're talking about. They got these old hippies trying to tell them to be one way. They want to be contrarian, and that's working in our favor right now, Gavin, isn't it?
Amen. Yeah, it is, and hopefully it continues. I mean, look, they're still trying to silence a lot of conservatives on campus. Campus is a horrible place to be in right now if you're a conservative and open about it. And then they're going to come after your profession.
No doubt.
They'll dox you, and they'll make sure you don't have a job. They'll make sure you can't work in certain industries, and you get really screwed.
All right, we got to leave it there. Say hello to my buddy Jaden Horn. It was great seeing you at his house, and hopefully we'll get together soon and have a couple cocktails. Thanks a lot, Gavin. Appreciate it. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, man. Have a good one.
Quick break. Come back right after this. Go down the rabbit hole to wrap up this Thirsty Thursday show. Just